Good evening. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Education for Tuesday, May 27th, 2025. I would like to start by reminding everyone that this meeting will be live streamed. As per policy number 7, regular and special meetings of the board may be streamed live, archived, and accessed online. The board reserves the right, at its sole discretion, via motion at any meeting, the right to not stream live or archive a meeting or a portion of a meeting. Further, the board reserves the right to edit any recorded portion of a meeting. I would like to call to order the regular meeting of the Langley Board of Education at 7:00 p.m. I would also like to first acknowledge that the Langley School District is located on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Matsqueak-Motley, Keetsi, and Semiahmoo First Nations. We gather here tonight in an understanding of the importance of Yayistil, Skekiyis working together, and Natsamat, Letsamat, uniting ourselves with one mind, one heart, to ensure that we support and inspire all learners to reach their full potential. I'd like to also introduce our attendees here this evening from the district. We have at the front here, we have my far right, Trustee Dickinson, Vice Chair Wilson, Superintendent Gill, myself, Candy Ashdown, Secretary Treasurer Brian Isley, Trustee Sarbrai, Trustee Charlie Fox, and Trustee Joel Neufeld. We also have Woody Bradford, Deputy Superintendent, Lisa Langeberry, Assistant Superintendent, Marcello Moino, Assistant Superintendent, Judy Swanson, Executive Assistant, Vincent Montefrio, Technical Support Specialist 3, Linda Polistretti, Director of Learning Support Services, Charlene Redicott, District Principal of Early Learning, Melissa Reimer, Principal of Blacklock Elementary, Jeff Fresco, Technical Support Specialist 2, Marlene Dickinson, QP 1260, Vice President, Jennifer Piper, DPAC President, Tisha Kraft, DPAC Vice President, Kathy Gracie, LP VPA Vice President, Taylor Foto, LTA President, and Nancy Peterson, LTA Vice President. Thank you for being here this evening. I first have an announcement with regards to National Accessibility Week. National Accessibility is recognized the week of May the 25th to May the 31st. The week celebrates the valuable contributions and leadership of people with disabilities in Canada, the work of allies, organizations, and communities that are removing barriers, and ongoing efforts to become a more accessible and inclusive Canada. This year's theme is applying inclusive thinking and actions in everyday life. The district's Accessibility Committee has had a successful second year together and has focused on an accessibility audit, researching accessibility centers and celebrating inclusion and accessibility. We are especially proud of the contribution of those with lived experience who are integral members of the Accessibility Committee. The district values the strengths and contributions of all and will continue to work towards an inclusive and nurturing culture. I'm going to pass the microphone over to Vice Chair Wilson to do a report from in camera.
Great. On our May 21st special in camera, the board discussed property, and at tonight's in camera, the board discussed personnel and property. In addition, the board voted to release the following motion. Bear with me, it's long. That the Board of Education approve that staff continue to work with the Township of Langley staff and Ministry of Infrastructure staff to explore an agreement for the relocation of Willoughby Elementary to a new site based on the following. Final approval of the project agreement by the Board of Education, the Ministry of Infrastructure, and the Township of Langley. Development of a project steering committee that consists of Township of Langley, School District, and Ministry of Infrastructure staff to oversee the project. The school is built to Ministry of Infrastructure specifications and be a modified repeat design of a recently built elementary school, i.e. Josette Danderand or Donna Gabriel Robbins. The new elementary school is built, finished, and furnished to the satisfaction of the Ministry of Infrastructure and School District in accordance with design and educational standards. All Ministry of Infrastructure and School District processes need to be followed, including, but not limited to, Ministry of Infrastructure and School District disposition processes, government approval processes, consultation with the Willoughby Elementary community. The Board of Education will not assume any cost or risk for the project. In good faith and in the best interest of students and the community, the Township of Langley will agree to the following. Fulfill their contractual obligation to build the road in front of Smith Middle Secondary Site, expedite permits for district projects, approve parking variance for the Smith Middle Secondary Site so that the site can accommodate play space for students on the site. The Township of Langley rescind its motion to end the joint use agreements for school park sites, that the Township of Langley allows access to the Smith Middle Secondary Site from 76th Avenue as a secondary access point, work together in good faith on future projects to provide buildings for students when it comes to permits and services to future sites. I think that's it. Yes.
Thank you, Vice Chair Wilson. All right, moving along on our next on our agenda this evening, the consent agenda. Trustees, you have before you the consent agenda. Could I please have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Moved by Trustee Fox, seconded. I have a seconded by Trustee Dickinson. Any any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Next, we have consideration of the agenda. Do I have a mover that the agenda be approved as presented? Or Trustee Dickinson, do you want to speak?
Yeah, I'd like to make an addition.
Okay, so you'd like to add that to
Yeah,
new
I'd like to
business?
add I'd like to add a motion to new business that I sent out to trustees several weeks ago.
Okay, so we have a motion then. Can I please have a mover that the agenda be presented as amended? Moved by Trustee Fox and seconded by Vice Chair Wilson. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Okay, we're moving on now to Secretary Treasurer's reports. 6.1, 2025-2026 Annual Budget Bylaw. First and second reading. I will pass this over to Secretary Treasurer Isley.
Thank you, Chair. There we go. Trustees will recall we went through the proposed preliminary budget at the Finance and Facilities meeting earlier this month. There's the only change to that was the addition of the relocation of portables, which we had told you was still being calculated and is now included. Before I get started, I do want to thank the finance team for the work that they've put in over the last many months in getting us through this budget process with the challenges that are there provincially with funding and costs. There's a lot of work done by the finance team to get us to where we are tonight, so I want to thank them for that. Just a reminder to trustees, you're legislated to submit a budget June 30th of each year. It is to be done in the format as dictated by the minister, and that format is the Public Sector Accounting Board, which is which requires all funds that the district has to be part of that budget, not just the operating fund. We will spend most of the time on the operating fund tonight, as that's where our discretionary funds are, and we'll cover a little bit on the special purpose funds as well. Just a reminder, this is how the budget template works that we are required to fill out. Statements are consolidated, so they're a consolidation of all of our individual funds. The Schedule 2s are operating, the Schedule 3 are special purpose, and the Schedule 4 are capital funds. Trustees have seen this already, but wanted to put this out for the public. Some of the key assumptions as part of the budget process. Our enrollment projection is projected to be up 455.991 students, which is substantially lower than the last number of years as immigration has been slowed in the province, and most districts are projecting flat or even declining enrollments. There's not a lot of districts that are still projecting growth over the next couple of years. The study permits has also been an issue with our international student program. So our ISP will be down a little bit next year, down to 920. This year we had 655 FTE, plus we had 20.582 students that we were able to retain based on timing of payments. Benefit charges are a constant cost pressure for the district. Our dental and extended health increases this year for the portion that the district paid, which isn't funded, is $1.9 million. CPP and EI, no change, and our WorkSafe rates actually decreased a little thanks to the work that our HR department has put into that over the last number of years. The 1% cost of living adjustment, which is part of the collective agreement, has been included in the per pupil funding, which is normal. There are usually special grants in the year that the raises are done, and then the subsequent year, those raises are rolled into the per pupil amounts and allocated across districts. Teacher increments for moving up the grid are included. Those are also not funded. And we are waiting on any further direction from the Ministry on tariffs and the possibility of how that could affect our services and supplies as well as our capital programs. We've added back full year impacts of late starts, which we had a lot, you'll see tonight. And then we removed one-time items, which you also had a fair number this past school year. So in your package, you will see this is a summary of our funds on the revenue side. So just over $400 million in total revenue projected for the next fiscal year. 357 million of that is from the Ministry of Education. We are heavily contingent on those funds on an annual basis. And as usual, the majority of those funds are in the operating category, just under 316 million. On the expense side, broken down by funds, just over $405 million. Instruction being the largest portion of that, of course, at just over $340 million, and our operating being the largest portion of our expenses at just under $314 million. This is a summary of the bylaw that is in your package for the first two readings, and we hope to have approved tonight by the board. So just as mentioned earlier, just under $409 million as a combined in our bylaw amount for all three of our funds. Spend most of our time in our operating. Start with the revenue. Ministry grants are up $6 million. I'll go into more detail on that. Our tuition is down. I have a slide for that as well. Our other revenue is up $122,000. That is our expansion of our child care program as we open a new school, Josette Dandrin, and some other programs that as they start to ramp up and start to fill up. Our investment income has declined again as interest rates continue to decline. Staff are working on alternatives, places to invest our funds to minimize that from deteriorating any further. As mentioned, the increases for the collective agreement have now been added to the per pupil rates. You can see those rates here. They've all gone up 1.1 or 1.2% for each of the categories. There is no other increase other than funding for the salaries for the COLA that was bargained in the last round of bargaining between CUPE and the teachers. what that means for our revenue. I'll start at the bottom. You can see all those minuses for the support staff benefits, funding for enhanced benefits, labor settlement funding, and professional development funding. Those were all supplemental grants that we've received over the last couple of years, and the salary grant that we received for the 2.9 million, totaling just under 3.7. Those have all been rolled into the per pupil amounts, so they are now included in those amounts up at the top. So our enrollment based funding is going up $6.2 million, and our unique student needs, our next biggest piece, at 3.1. So you can see our total funding there is up just under $9.7 million, but in reality, it's up $6 million when you take out the rolling in of the other grants. Our tuition revenue, as mentioned earlier, we had one-time amounts for students that had canceled that we are able to retain a portion of their fees of 23.21 FTE. So that comes out of our amended budget, just under $383,000. Our decline of 45.2 FTE, another $742,000, which, and then a small little amount of just over 2,000, resulting in just over 1.1 million in tuition changes. The expense side of our operating, you can see the largest change has been in our teachers, and I have more details on all these. And then the next biggest change is in our benefits and our reduction in our supply accounts, mainly due to late starts, vacancies, and one-time funding amounts that we had in our previous budget. On the teacher side, the salary increments for teachers moving up the steps in the grid is just under $1.6 million that we need to find. We added 7 divisions at elementary middle for just over $678,000. Enrollment increases at secondary resulted in 7.74 FTE and just under $750,000. We added 0.6 wave teacher, and then we have, I mentioned earlier, a lot of vacancies. We have 1.5, just under $1.6 million that were in the budget as late starts and vacancies and average teacher cost savings that now get put back in for the full year impact of those salaries for the full year. We had to reduce Choices program staffing to better reflect the program offering there, with impact of about $400,000. Indigenous teacher 1.5. As we move to Indigenous education councils, the district principal has been asked to be removed from those targeted funds, which we have done, so it allowed them to add a teaching position and a half. Our English language learners continues to grow at a fairly rapid rate, so 2.3 FTE added for that in our operating. There'll be more added in our classroom enhancement fund in the fall. And then last year, because we had so many positions unfilled, there was 6.5 FTE of English language learner teachers that weren't filled. Those are now being put back in as we continue to work to staff those positions. On the principal side, we have put in an increase for principals to move through the grids, hoping that if there are raises similar to the collective agreements, that they would once again be funded, but they don't fund moving up the steps for our exempt and our principals. So we've budgeted some funds in both those categories if and when we are actually allowed to proceed with raises for our exempt and admin group. We had one-time funds that we put in for admin leaves, coverage, and support plan. So that has come out, hopefully to be put back in with some one-time savings as we go farther in the year or from accumulated savings for this year. We opened a school this year, so we need to budget a principal and a vice principal for that school. And then some changes in how we do English language learners. We did have 2 district principals due to retirement to cover transition. replacing that with a vice principal, and then a small change of being able to charge some of the district principal to one of the special purpose funds. Instructional services, we made a change, adding a director of instruction, but removed a district principal. So there's just a minor change for that. On the education assistant side, late starts there as well. So the 617,000 being added back for late starts that were in the amended budget. And with the increase in the programming for early childhood education comes with additional hours, which will be filled by our FCAs. The support staff, 3 new custodians for Josette Dandran, as well as an administrative assistant. We had used one-time funds for additional clerical support for schools. That has been pulled out. And some overtime, as well as mat coverage to double up on a maternity leave in our payroll department to make sure that we have continuity there. For the other professionals, as similar to the principals, we've added $52,000 for steps through the grid if we are so allowed to do so. Added assistant payroll manager position, and then the annualized impact of late starts or unfilled vacations in our finance, HR, and IT departments was about $391,000. The substitute line, we haven't added anything to the cost of that. It's one we need to keep an eye on, but we've pulled out all the late start vacancy backfills. So you can see the 738,000 for teachers and the 452,000 for our QP staff. On our supplies, not a lot of ads, just some that are cost related that we have to increase. Our licensing continues to go up year over year. We have to add utilities for the new school, $215,000, but that's mostly, that is offset and then some in savings with the announcement that the carbon tax has been removed. So that reduces our natural gas and propane bills by about $500,000. Software costs and MyEd BC, those are amounts that are passed to us from the province. Started an initial process on reducing paper towel and going back to hand dryers in schools. That would save us $52,000, and also a big piece of that is a renegotiation of some of the prices on the paper towels that we pay for. The insurance deductibles continue to go up as costs go up and as we continue to grow. Our international student program with the lower number of students, it reduces our commissions and our medical costs. And then you can see the impact of some of those late starts, the things that we're pulling out. So there was 637,000 in Prody that was one time, as well as at Central, $1.3 million in supplies and $1.2 million in schools. And added $100,000 in recoveries for field trips, as that number has continued to grow since COVID has ended. On the capital side, 1.9 million in computer equipment. That number is similar to last year. We have a preliminary estimate of needing to move 9 portables. There are a few more that are being moved, but they're in capital projects. So for $720,000, that's the piece that has been added for trustees since the finance and facilities meeting. Licensing costs for our new ERP system that we're going to start the implementation on this coming school year, and software for schools, as well as the $500,000 that we have annually in our vehicle and fleet upgrade for our maintenance. With all that said, that leaves us in a deficit of 1.5 million compared to the amended budget of $5.99 million. That deficit will be funded through the appropriation of accumulated surplus. And we'll take 808,000 from our internal to balance future budgets, which would leave us just over $2.1 million. And we take this $720,000 for the portables out of student capacity, which brings that down to just under $2.9 million. Special purpose funds, those are funds that have a liability attached to them and a requirement on how we spend those funds and are accounted for individually. And those funds are allowed to carry forward if unspent for the majority of the funds. The main difference here you can see the Classroom Enhancement Fund, our CEF, is down 5.8 million, and I'll address on a separate slide. All the other amounts were carry forward amounts from the prior year that were not spent, that were added to the amended budget, which come out and go back to their normal funding levels. Our classroom enhancement funding, the funding for that is at this point in time, we are always given the FTE and the cost of the FTE for teachers that we had for the current year. So that amount rolls forward. Same with the overhead, and then they don't give us anything for remedy until the fall rolls around. So once we submit our new asks in October for the staffing and November for the remedy, they announce the final CEF number in the December recalc that they do at the end of the calendar school year, calendar year, pardon me. Next steps, bring an update to the finance facilities meeting, as well as we have the budget open house on June 3rd, where people can come and ask questions of what they've heard tonight, with the hope of June 17th public meeting, having the third and final reading, which would allow us to submit a budget in time for the June 30th deadline. Prior to that third reading, we would need a board motion to restrict accumulated surplus to balance the 25-26 budget. And just for a reminder, this is what the bylaw amount would be that is in your package that staff are proposing for your approval tonight.
Thank you. Trustees, do you have any questions? Trustee Fox.
Sure, I have questions. I wore a red tie tonight, just so you could tell which side of the ledger I was on. Not very happy. Yes, I think if I paraphrase Secretary Treasurer Isley, it was no increase other than contractual obligations and increments. Is that correct?
For the most part, yeah, it's a few ones on like on the supplies for things that we don't really have control that we need to.
So we get the same amount of money for toilet paper or cleaning supplies or anything that we got last year. And yet everything is increasing substantially in terms of costs and so on. So obviously, this is not a healthy situation to be in. I'll get back to that. Contingency 7 rooms in elementary and middle. So that is just held in case of growth.
We do the grids very early in the process before we have all the enrollment numbers. So we have that to make sure that we can bridge the shortfall to what we've projected.
Okay, so you've done an extrapolation of the grids now, but you've kept 7 rooms available to make any adjustments.
To get up to 455 students, yes.
Okay, so good. No decrease in professional development.
Those were one-time programs that we'd use one-time funds for.
But they're not being refinanced by the ministry.
Well, they were never financed by the ministry. They were mostly funded from vacancies and unfilled positions.
Okay, so they're now, which of course in the profession, it doesn't matter which aspect of our district, teaching or our custodial or SEAs, professional development, is always the way we learn and do better in our positions. And it's unfortunate that that isn't something that we're going to continue with. Not that we're not going to continue with, we won't get the funding to continue it. Question, cybersecurity, which is always top of mind at this point in time. When you talked about 3 or 4 slides back, I think it was capital. We know of at least one school district that's been significantly compromised. I guess my question is, have we got enough in the budget to cover the existing or potentially increased cybersecurity that's necessary to keep the information that we have on file with our students, 25,000 of them, our staff, which is over 4,000, basically 30,000 individuals, safe, secure, and not at liberty of any hackers getting associating material from.
So we still have some restricted surplus to cover cybersecurity. So we put aside at the end of last school year, $250,000. We spent 105 of that, and we have 145,000 that is still being worked through on how that's going to be spent. The 105, it has been in process. We are taking steps to do that. Focused Ed is also worked to get a provincial retainer for a crisis response if anything did happen, so that every school district in the province that signs up with this thing has the ability to get quick access to it. It does come obviously at a cost once that happens. These attacks are not cheap. They're very expensive. We have a great IT team this is very high on their list. They've brought other entities in to do some hardening and testing, and we're making the changes as necessary, and being careful with what I say because
Obviously, it's sensitive.
Yeah.
Good, okay. I'll stop there rather than to say that, to the public, we're balancing the budget, but we're $1.5 million short. Our neighbors next door, we all know the situation in Surrey. We all know the situation in pretty much all 60 school districts right now. Thankfully, and this goes to our senior staff and the work they do in trying to balance the budget. We still have a surplus, or we had a surplus to cover this year. We'll have a bit of a surplus left over, but there's going to come a point in time when that surplus is done. And I don't think we're much more, and I'll ask a very hypothetical question of our Secretary Treasurer. When do you think that we might have a situation where we are looking at surplus used up? Is it a year, 2 years, potentially?
At the next finance facility meeting, there will be a 3-year budget, a high level budget, which will have a better answer to that question.
Okay,
but it's inevitable in the next.
Well, there you go. From the guy that does the dollars and cents, it's inevitable at the present funding level. And I just want to say our new BCSDA president, Tracy Loeffler from Mission, whose district's in the same situation, is being very strong voice to the ministry, because this is Ministry of Education, obviously, in terms of making it clear that we're underfunded. We can't continue. Somewhere there has to be a commitment of the provincial government to get the funds out to the schools, protect our staff and protect our programs. So thank you.
Thank you. I saw a hand from you, Vice Chair Wilson.
Yes, thank you for the report. I had a lot of similar things to say. I did want to just mention where you pointed out that the new childcare spots will be staffed by EAs, and I was very happy to hear that. I've been passionate about that from the beginning when the ministry said childcare was going to come into schools, that it just seemed like a great opportunity to give full jobs to people that have been cobbling together small amounts of work. So I hope we continue on that path, as I have heard that in some districts it's falling apart a little bit. So I really hope that we push to keep that going. I also I have to echo Trustee Fox's sentiments that we see what's happening in Surrey. We see there's big rallies going on about it. We need to do things differently. I mean, portables and moving portables and inflation, and I think benefit premium increases and staff moving up grids, all of these unfunded things just come at a cost, and the cost is that it's taking support away from students that need it. So I think there's going to be a motion later that's going to help address this, but I really think that we are heading towards a crisis, and all boards and all districts need to figure out something, because we can't underfund education. Like, it's so important, and we need to invest in it. So, yeah, just wanted to say thank you to staff that we're not in the position that some districts are in, but it's only a matter of time unless something changes. So thanks for your report.
Thank you. Any other trustees have any questions or comments? Okay, I just want to reiterate, I can't speak, what my fellow colleagues, trustees are saying as well. And yeah, it's a concern where our expenses are going up higher than our income is going up, and we're going to get ourselves in a crisis pretty quickly here too as well, just like other districts. Um, I am looking forward to a motion that we have later, and yeah, and hopefully we have some response soon from the province to deal with this. I know we've been speaking every chance we get, even myself included, even when I've had seen somebody one-on-one, and doing everything we can to make them understand. And I do think that they are listening and hopefully trying to look at things to how they can help us, because it's not working right now. Okay, so I have two recommended motions here for our bylaw, our annual budget bylaw. Could I please have a mover first for the motion that the school district number 35 Langley annual budget bylaw for fiscal year 2025-26 in the amount of 408,629,794 be given first reading? Moved by trustee Dickinson. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by trustee Neufeld. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Next, could I please have a mover that the school district number 35 Langley annual budget bylaw for fiscal year 2025-26 in the amount of 408,629,794 be given second reading? Moved by Vice Chair Wilson, seconded by trustee Dickinson. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Moving on to 7.1 under superintendent's reports, National Accessibility Week. And over to you, Superintendent Gill.
Thank you, Chair Ashtown. This evening we have Director Paul Estretti here to provide us with a short report, just updating the work that we do. She has been doing with her committee around accessibility in our district. In addition, just acknowledging the fact that this is National Accessibility Week, and thought this would be the perfect time for her report. So the director can come up. That would be great.
Good evening, Trustee Ashdown, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Gill. It is my pleasure to present about the Accessibility Committee and its work during National Accessibility Week, which we are in right now. And I would be remiss if I didn't say that we're here to educate and celebrate during this week. And much of what I'm going to talk about is based on the work of the committee, the 8 active members of the committee, and the work that happens behind the scenes, including the legacy of Director of Student Support Services, Michael Morgan, who has been the chair of this committee for the last 2 years and whom I'm taking over for, plus the work of Joe Shire, who has helped us celebrate the incredible kiddos that are in our buildings every day living with a disability, and the amazing work that our associated professionals and our teachers do to support them. So a little bit of background about the committee. It is a requirement under the Accessibility BC Act. The requirement stipulates that we do have to have a committee, that we do have to have a plan, and that we do have to have a mechanism for feedback from our stakeholders to provide information around accessibility itself. The committee itself, this is our most celebrated point is that the committee itself is made out of members who are living with a disability, and their voices are active representations in what we are doing day to day as part of our committee. We have individuals who have mobility, who are living with hearing loss, who have vision loss, and who have other learning disabilities, etc. Plus, we have a student voice representative. And so I'm really proud of the fact that the committee itself are the voices of those who are living with a disability. The committee works at 3 different levels to monitor accessibility, to evaluate the work of our accessibility committee, and finally to celebrate, which is what we're doing during National Accessibility Week. In terms of monitoring accessibility, right now we're looking at the feasibility of an accessibility audit by conducting one on the school board office and looking at the recommendations that come out of that audit. In terms of future planning, is it feasible to do such an audit at all of our sites, at some of our sites? What would be the proactive statements that would come out of that office in terms of looking at future designs of buildings or when we look at renovation projects? In addition, the committee looks at the accessibility grant and makes recommendations to prioritize work orders that come through that grant. For example, automatic door openers on some of our buildings, accessible playgrounds, etc. We also are looking at an educational component. One of the biggest barriers that we find for students who are living with a disability is attitudinal barriers. And so we are looking at the concept of accessibility hubs or centers. Those hubs or centers already exist in our post-secondary institutions to remove or identify and remove barriers for our students who have a disability. And so we are in the investigative stage of what those hubs might look like in our sites as students find their own voice and tell us what supports they need in place in order to be successful. The Accessibility Committee, this is the best part of what the work that we do, is really to celebrate accessibility. And during this week, we've taken a 2-pronged approach. The first is to provide education. So we've provided a series of lessons built on 4 videos on the concept of what is inclusion, what is disability, what is accessibility, and what are barriers, and then provided lessons to our teachers at each of the levels, so primary, intermediate, and secondary, that they can roll out and do 1 lesson a day during Accessibility Week. And we've also taken a celebratory approach. This is the best part of my presentation, that is to celebrate the individuals and people and groups that are living with disability or that have increased accessibility for our students. This year, in the fall, the Gavanta lift, which was the work of Michael Morgan and his team last year, arrived in our district. It's the best picture I could find of the lift. It's an expensive piece of equipment, but it is meant to remove the barrier of stairs. And so we have students who cannot access our stages or our portable stages because they always have stairs and not a ramp to and from them. And so this lift allows students to walk in on crutches or drive in a wheelchair, close the door behind them, press the up button, and it will automatically go up to whatever height, up to 5 feet, that we need to get a student onto a stage or into a graduation ceremony or up into a play. And it has already been used this year at school assemblies, a play at James Hill. We're looking forward to a number of year-end assemblies where this lift will be used. We endeavor that it will be used during concerts, etc., and graduation events. It's very portable. You just hook it up and you behind a truck and you can move it to wherever you want. And our OT team comes in behind the scenes and brings it up to the right level and makes sure that it's all good to go. So I'm proud of that piece of equipment being in there because for many of our kiddos, they can now get onto the stage just like their peers. I apologize for the formatting. So the next one is a little bit of a ball launcher. So this one comes the work of our OT team, who are incredible tinkerers who take everyday pieces of equipment and make them into accessible pieces of technology for our students. So in this case, you have Mickey, who is using a ball launcher, aka a leaf blower, that is adapted to his switch on his wheelchair that he just presses and the ball will launch up into the air. And depending on how it's launched, Mickey can be the receiver of the launch, or he can be the person who is sending it to somebody. In this picture, it's an example of him launching it too. But in the next video, courtesy of the work of Director of Communications, Joe Ashber. This is one of our celebratory videos. So there are 3 of them this week, all featuring students who are living with a disability and the work that our team does to make it a more accessible world for them.
But in a lot of sports, I partake in most of them at this school because there's a lot of sport opportunities that they open up here. But the most, what I like the most is soccer, as you saw. This is something I really value about my school is they always find ways to include. But every school should do that. I just find that it takes it to a whole nother level in this school.
I love hearing that, and I love seeing that, you know, we can be a small part of making it possible for kids to just participate and have fun with their peers, like just playing a game or participating in a sport.
I'm willing to do everything, and I want to do everything, and I can do everything. It's just like anything is possible in my mind. That is something I really value as a person.
So courtesy of Director Abshire, we have 2 other videos. I won't play them, but one of them features June at James Hill Elementary, who has written a book, Not Too Big, Not Too Small, and has not let her disability define her. She wants to be a dancer. And the work of Ben Fullerton, who is a previous Langley School District grad and now serves on the District Accessibility Committee and is conducting the audit of the school board office. And again, not letting his disability define who he is as an individual. And lastly, our steps next year are taking some targeted actions around the audit, around our accessibility hubs, continuing to celebrate accessibility. I had the pleasure of attending a conference from BC Case, and it came up with some great ideas for next year, which I'm happy to be ahead of the game on. And last step for us is writing the next 3-year plan, which will take place in 2026 to 2029. And with that, thank you very much.
Thank you. Trustees, Trustee Dickinson.
I couldn't stop smiling. Like,
Yeah.
so much awesome work being done. Thank you so much for all of that. The young girl, June, I actually reshared her story that was posted. When she talked about going into the office and giving, I'm assuming, the secretary a break.
Yep.
During the day, and I sat there and I was like, what a well-spoken kid. So I'm so happy that some of these kids and people that are in our district are being featured for some of the amazing things they're doing. I'm also contemplating how I can make that ball launcher myself. That's awesome. Like, how creative. I love that kind of stuff is being worked on. And then listening to the young student there speak about it. Like, how incredible to hear him say, I can do anything. Like, yeah, you can. As long as the adults around you let you have that freedom and ability to do that, right? And yeah, it was just so incredibly heartwarming. I really do hope that we can get an audit in at least one school. I would love to see what that would look like, from not so much a board office perspective, but what does that look like in the school? I know there's a ton of complications and stuff around that, but I'm really, that's what I've got my fingers crossed for. Anyways, thank you so much for your work. Thank you for coming. Yeah, it's a good day. Thank
Pleasure.
you.
Trustees, anybody else? Trustee Fox?
I just wanted to say, and this isn't a question, but it's just a comment. It's so nice to see Sandy Morgan. Sandy Morgan was working at Blacklock when I was at Blacklock. That was a whole century ago. But, you know, it's so nice to see her still doing what she loves to do, which is be an advocate. And she doesn't look a day older than when she worked with me, and that was a long time ago. So that's great. And pass on that I say hi and that I love the work she's doing.
Trustee Wright?
Just watching your presentation, like I can't even put it into words, the emotions I was feeling watching your videos, but really like when you hear inclusiveness and you see things like this, you guys thinking out of the box to help kids feel included, whether it's playing a game on the playground or being on stage with their peers doing a presentation. This is what to me represents inclusiveness. That was awesome what you guys are doing. And kudos to you guys for thinking out of the box just to help these kids feel included and have like some sort of normalcy in their life. It was really good. It tugged my heart, held back my tears, but it really tugged my heart. Yeah, great job.
Vice Chair Wilson?
Yeah, great presentation. It was just like, oh my gosh, I just wanted to totally cry watching that video. I don't know who could watch that and not just feel like so proud. So great work there. Just as far as the Accessible British Columbia Act sort of portion, I see that in the report it was listed like what the function is and forming the committee and the plan and such. But I'm similar to Trustee Dickinson in the fact that I would really love to see the accessibility audits done like school wide. And I feel like if that was part of the mandate, I know it would be more work and it would create a huge amount of, extra staff and things we'd have to do, but it would just be great to actually have that be part of the mandate. And then we would know, have an audit done on all our schools and see where we're at and what we need to do to improve. And so do you know if that is coming at all in the works or if they've talked about that?
They have, to my knowledge, they have not talked about it yet. But one of again, at the BC Case conference that we attended this last weekend, they did the Rick Hansen Foundation in conjunction with BC Case has rolled out 4 different documents about accessibility in schools that we took a look at and saw an opportunity to address how we could roll it out at a little bit more functional level at schools to allow schools to have a bigger hand or a partner in defining what is accessibility and looking at accessibility barriers, for example. And so we're interested in looking through those documents and seeing how we might get to that layer of where it's actually school-based and having our schools be more accessible. And I think sometimes it's things that we overlook. It's like one of the things they pointed out is glossy versus matte posters for our students who have a visual impairment. I didn't even think about it until it was pointed out, right? So looking forward to that opportunity to roll it out at school level and having schools see what barriers are there and how they might be proactively removing them.
Great. Well, I hope we hear a report back with all of those things next year.
Wait till next year, though.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Trustee Neufeld?
They were paying attention. I told them before, right?
Yeah.
See,
There we
they
go.
were
He's
just a little
active.
slow. They were just a little. I was at the production of Lion King, Wicks Brown, and one of the cast members was in a wheelchair sort of device, and it was seamless. So I'm just wondering if that device, if the lift was used.
I don't know if it
Okay.
was used or not. It's organized by our OT, so as schools need it, they let their OT know, and the OT puts in all the work orders to move it from one location to the next and goes in and sets it up. So
And has-
I couldn't tell you if it was or was not used.
And is the work orders moving? Is that something that's effective right now and efficient?
Yeah, we've had no issues with facilities moving it from the facility where it's housed to different sites
Yep.
right now. And it's pretty quick. It's about a 2-hour setup to get it up to the whatever height is of the stage. And then practicing it with the one student so they know when to push the button. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just add my thoughts as well. And I don't really have questions because everything I was thinking has been answered, but just really wanted to let you know that I appreciate you being here and also being at our committee meeting when we had a longer, more thorough presentation on this. And I have to tell you that that evening I was actually really excited to go home after the committee meeting and I talked to my daughters about what we were doing in the district and was really, really excited because, you know, I have 2 girls who have, hopefully they don't mind me sharing, but had some barriers in their education with disabilities. And my daughter actually said to me, well, did they think about lighting? And I said, well, I'm pretty sure they probably have talked about it, but I will mention that as well, because for her, that was a big thing. And so I just want to, you know, just tell you that I really, really appreciate all of the work that you're doing on this. And watching that video, I too was emotional. It was happy emotional, but had to try to think of something else for a sec, or I was going to get tears were going to come down my face. So it was just great. And I also saw the video of June as well, and what an amazing young woman she is. And so, and honestly, just when I didn't think I could be more proud to be up here and on this board for this district, you know, things like this, presentations like this come, and I'm just even more proud to be here. So thank you for all of your good work, because you guys make us all look so good. So thank you. And all right, so my computer's just going to sleep on me here. So if I could please have a mover then for the recommended motion that the Board of Education receives the report on National Accessibility Week for information as presented. Moved by Trustee Fox, seconded by Trustee Dickinson. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, moving along to 7.2, transitions through the Langley School District. Back to you, Superintendent Gill.
Thank you, Chair. This presentation is going to be done by a number of different people. I see that Assistant Superintendent Lanchberry is up. We're going to have Assistant Superintendent Moino. We're going to hear from Director Paula Stredi and Principal Reimer and District Principal Redikoff as well. Just to outline for you that certainly transitions are an important part of the work that we do, and we've talked about our graduation rates, but transitions really begin early on when students are first coming to school, even preschool. And we're going to have an opportunity to walk that journey through our school district with a fantastic presentation.
Thank you, Superintendent Gill, for the opportunity to have myself and a wonderful team with me to share with you transitions through the Langley School District. Superintendent Gill did share that it's not just about transitioning from, but it's all the way from pre-K throughout the experience as a student. And we really like to talk about through, because every single moment is so key. Every single year is key. And then there's some milestone moments and milestone experiences that we want to share with you today. The picture that you see in front of you there is the Aboriginal Achievement Awards from a few weeks ago. And I was over sitting to the side and trying to capture a photograph of the stage. And at the moment thought I was having a difficult time doing so, but then looked at my photo and thought, well, this actually is what it's all about. There was a younger sibling that couldn't stop cheering and being just extremely enthusiastic for their older sibling. And I'm like, that younger sibling looking at the stage, thinking about perhaps one day that will be me, but at the same moment celebrating what was happening is exactly what we're talking about tonight. It's about no matter what part of the journey you're in, let's celebrate and let's help every student be successful. Superintendent Gill starts meetings with a reflection for all of us on the first people's principles of learning that you see before us. The key ones that really connect to the transitions are learning involves patience and time. Every single moment, as I said, is so important. And we know it takes time, pre-K, all the way to graduation and beyond, to develop the personal identity, to really know who you are as a learner and who the learners are. And we need to honor that learning. Learning is embedded in memory, history, and story. It's about really turning to each individual story and honoring each individual story and having the adults wrap around their memory, their history, and be part of their present and their future story is what's so important to us. And then learning involves recognizing the consequences of one's actions. Every single decision we make for students and every single decision students make for themselves will have an impact on what comes next and will have an impact on the trajectory of their learning career. As a district, we believe that every child matters, and we believe that this comes through in the actions that we strive to take as we make decisions for all of our students. And what we've noticed from the data is that there is an achievement gap between all our learners and our priority learners. So what do? We intentionally focus in on our priority learners so that they can be successful and they can have equal access to all of these transition opportunities that we talk about. Our presentation this evening is going to talk about the steps that every student takes from their very first moment into a school throughout their entire career and set them up for success for an educated citizen. All of the photos that you see here are examples of transition opportunities. The top left photo is the Welcome to Kindergarten event at Nickelmeckle. The targeted instruction that's happening at Douglas Park for those youngest learners, those life skills that are being developed at Douglas Park so they can be safe on the road and be using their bikes to be for transportation. The explorations at Stafford and the physical education opportunities at Poppy and the trades opportunities, all of these are an opportunity for us to really support the transition of students so that they can have equitable access to opportunities and learn more about themselves as learners. And all of these are due to the really supportive and wonderful staff, some of whom are with me here tonight. We have Early Learning District Principal Charlene Redicop, Melissa Reimer, Principal of Blacklock Elementary. We have, again, Director of Learning Support Services, Linda Polistretti, and Marcella Moino and I, Assistant Superintendents, really strive to support this work, support the staff in this work, so that this can come alive in classrooms and in schools. The purpose of Langley School District is to inspire all learners to reach their full potential and create a positive legacy for the future. And this rings through all of the strategic, all of the plans that you see before us, the Aboriginal Enhancement Agreement, where student success is at the center. The strategic plan, which reinforces the goal that every student will be successful. The framework for enhancing student learning and the action plan for learning, all aligned with students at the center of the goals. The framework for enhancing student learning says the Langley School District is committed to ensuring all learners have equitable access for transition through the collective work outlined in this strategic plan. And that's our goal, to provide equitable access for transition. Because if we don't do that, we haven't lived our commitment for every child to be successful. And the framework for enhancing student learning really highlights the 3 areas of student development. Career development, where students can really find self and identity and thrive in knowing who they are as a learner. Intellectual development, where they can focus in on their academics and understand where their strengths and gifts are. And human adult social development, how they interact with other people in the world. And these 3 areas of development also exist in the action plans for learning at the schools, and examples that you're going to hear today emerge from the action plans for learning at the schools. Equality is giving everyone the same pair of shoes. Equity is giving everyone a pair of shoes that fits. Can you imagine if everybody just got the same pair of shoes? If everybody got the same kind of program, if everybody had the same experience, that's not going to be a rich, personal, individualized learning experience for those students. So we strive to provide equity. We strive to provide students what they need so that individuals can be successful. A sneak peek into a next year career development goal is all students will successfully transition through Langley schools with the understanding of personal strengths and skills so they can navigate meaningful future pathways and careers for themselves. It's about really understanding who they are as a person, what their gifts are, what their strengths are, so that they can take themselves and navigate those future pathways. And this is reinforced again by what we believe as a district that we need to do so that our schools are ensouled. We're called to create compassionate and inclusive social and academic learning communities that provide access for every learner. And our work is to focus in and continue to hone in on the targeted actions, look at what the students need, look at the data, listen to what the students are telling us about their own learning, and make adjustments as needed. And that's what you're going to hear today. Some adjustments that have already been made this year in preparation for students for next year. You're going to hear about the journey of individual students through the lens of different parts of their own experiences. Maya Angelou says, every journey begins with a single step. And with that, I'll pass it to District Principal of Early Learning, Charlene Redekop, and she's going to take us on the beginning of that journey with some of those very first steps.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to share this evening. The transition into school is a very exciting and important step in the educational journey of our children and families, and one that we want to support in the best way possible to ensure that our youngest learners are set up in the best way and to have a strong start in their school journey. The Early Learning Framework, which is one of the guiding documents from the Ministry of Education, that informs all of our work in the early years, identifies parents and caregivers as being a child's first and most important teacher. Parents and caregivers lay the foundation for a successful transition into school through the preschool years. Parents and caregivers are an important part of a triangle of support that includes the home, the school, and the student, who, when working together, ensure that the student is successful and that they thrive. This partnership is so key, and as a school system, we want to work together with families to support a successful transition into school for all of our children. When our school administrators reflected this fall on this first step that our youngest learners make as they enter school, schools expressed a desire to support kindergarten transitions with some additional scaffolding. As a result, this year we've intentionally provided some increased connection points for families to strengthen this triangle of support. As an additional touch point for families, in January, we hosted a virtual meeting for all families with children entering kindergarten. And we provided some information about registration, things they could do to prepare their children for kindergarten, as well as information for students that were requiring additional support due to their learning needs. We also attached a welcome to kindergarten questionnaire to the actual registration form, which allowed our schools to collect information in January for students that were coming into school this coming September, which just provides our school with additional time to prepare and really feel like they know the new kindergarten students even before they've actually stepped into the school. We've also provided some intentional programming to support transition into school, and our Just Before Preschool program is an example of that, that's intended for children in the year before they enter school. So we've expanded that to 3 sites this year. We have one operating Monday through Friday at Douglas Park, 2 days a week at Parkside, and 2 days a week at Donna Gabriel Robbins. And JB4 provides children with the opportunity to be introduced to routines and learning opportunities in a very supported way, which sets them up well for their next step of kindergarten. We also offer Ready, Set, Learn programming, and sometimes referred to as Gifts and Gatherings, which provides additional connection points for children and their families to school. And this year we've tried to improve access to families by offering evening programming at a number of sites, giving opportunities for parents that work during the day to be part of these opportunities. We also offered our early years, the largest early years event that we ran, the Child Day event. We ran that on a Saturday with the intention of providing greater access to families who work, and really just trying to improve access so that all of our families are able to engage. Our Strong Start staff continue to provide ongoing connection points for families in an ongoing way through the school year. And several times a year, they all come together for special events. And this was our Easter event that was at Williams Park. And we spread these events out through the communities in Langley so that families can attend something that's close to them in their neighborhood. And then during the summer, we have plans to offer continued Strong Start opportunities in some locations. There's many different pieces that work together to support the transition into the school system. And there's intentionality in providing these a variety of access points for these supports so that we can impact as many children and as many families as possible. And we encourage our families to take advantage of as many opportunities as you can and connect in as many ways as possible to our early years programs. There's a little guy that I have been getting to know through Strong Start this year. And he, I think he's 3. He attends all, or at least most, of our Strong Start centers, and he knows all of our Strong Start facilitators. And when he walks into an early years event, regardless of how many people are there, he walks in with confidence. And it's like he's thinking, I am here, and these people know me, and they see me for who I am. He's already made that positive connection to school even before he started kindergarten. As Assistant Superintendent Lynchbury referenced earlier, this little guy has started developing his identity as a successful learner, which connects back to our career and development goal that's present in our action plans. And this has happened and been established before he's even stepped into school officially. The transition into kindergarten and elementary school is the first of many transitions as children move through the school system. Principal Reimer from Blacklock Elementary will now share some of the steps that support the next big transition point as children move from elementary school into middle school.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be speaking to you tonight about transitions. There we go. In particular, the transition from elementary school to middle school. Our Blacklock students got a beautiful day to visit HD Stafford for the first time, and you can see the mix of excitement and with a healthy dose of apprehension in their faces about this next big phase in their lives. The shift from grade 5 to grade 6 marks a huge and significant transition for these students that we treat with a lot of care to make sure that every student can be successful in this transition. This year in particular, transitions hold a special place in my heart. I've had the privilege of working exclusively in the LSS family of schools. I started as a teacher at Uplands. I worked as a teacher at HD Stafford. I became vice principal at Nickelmackle, and now the proud principal at Blacklock. So this year at the grad walk, I have the very special privilege and honor to close the loop on the students that I taught at HD Stafford and grade 6 and grade 7. So I'm feeling very excited and humbled to be with them in that part of their journey. It's the moment we work for. It's the reason we do everything that we do. We don't always get to catch that moment. So I'm very pleased that I get to be there to share that special time with them. One of the most important aspects of this transition from elementary to middle school is carrying forward the strong relationships and the deep understanding that we develop in elementary school. From that very first moment our students and families enter our building, we are working so hard to establish the relationships with our students and with our families, to understand their story, to understand their needs, and to eventually walk them through all of the transitions that they're going to experience along the way. For so many of our students, we know that they will absolutely take off under the pillars of middle. Their world is about to explode with options and opportunities for self-discovery and growth, both socially and academically. And I've had the pleasure of watching so many students at Nipilmakul transition so smoothly, really due to the relationships embedded in that transition. Across the district, we embrace a model of transition that is relational and personalized. I've been so fortunate, as I mentioned, to be embedded in the LSS family of schools. In my time at Nipilmakul, we worked very intentionally to maintain that relationship with HD Stafford. So the web leaders and of course the mascot would come help with our Terry Fox run. This year at Blacklock, we've had past students come and judge our door decorating contest. HD Stafford not only makes, but they come and serve breakfast for our community every couple of weeks at Blacklock, and our web leaders come and help with sports day. So this continuous relationship that we have with HD Stafford really helps all of our families feel like a part of the broader community and helps to ease that transition into that next step. Web leaders generally make significant contributions to this particular transition. So not only do they come and help that continuous relationship, but they really set the stage for our students to start in a good way in grade 6. If you've ever been at HD Stafford on the first day of school, you know what the goosebumps feel like when the teachers and the web leaders are lined up cheering for those grade 6s, clapping for them, making them feel welcome and belonged. And I know I'm biased, but I would argue that HD Stafford probably does the best job of creating a culture of care. I know many of you have had the privilege of listening to Mr. Hankey and Ms. Favreau talk about the work that they do at HD Stafford. And it's really, really powerful. And it's a moment that I'm really proud to be able to say to our students and our families that middle school is going to catch you and it's going to be okay. And you're going to not just be okay, but you're going to really thrive in that next step. So these are our Blacklock students at the end of our HD Stafford visit. Their bellies are full of pizza. They are proudly donning their new Skyhawk t-shirts. And they've had the powerful pep talk from Mr. Hankey about all the wonderful things they're about to embark on. This is an event that all students get to enjoy. This is the moment where they feel welcome in that building before they even start. We do know, however, that some of our students are going to need a more personalized and more individualized plan to support a healthy and strong transition for them into middle school. So some of these students will get visits in small groups. They will get to meet and talk to the caring adults that are going to be their next people. And a few of our students will need something even more personalized than that. They will be able to sit with their people knowing that the wraparound supports that they may have access through their elementary years will be something that they walk right into at HD Stafford. So we know that my story is biased in LSS. But these thoughtful and intentional transitions are happening across our district. They're happening from elementary to middle school. They are happening from grade 7 to grade 8 in some areas, and grade 8 to grade 9. And so with that, we continuously reevaluate what we can do to make this transition the best possible experience that it can be for our students. And with significant growth in both the district and our family of schools, one of the challenges is how do we continue to make this process as personalized as it possibly can be? We are continually reevaluating our process to make sure that the adults have created efficiencies. But really at the end of the day, it's about preserving the feeling. It's about creating the experiences that all kids need to feel like they belong. And it's about identifying the really personalized and individualized needs that some of our students need to make successful transitions. And so with that, I invite Director Polistretti back to the podium to speak to you about the next steps through the journey for our students in SD 35. Thank you.
Thanks, Principal Reimer. It's my pleasure to talk about moving students to that transition of secondary. And so I wanted to begin with, it's not the stars that hold our destiny, but in ourselves. And that really defines what secondary is all about, as students take an opportunity to find who they are and what they want to become in the next journey ahead for them. And so we have done some work at the middle secondary this year to provide some very intentional transition supports and identify what that might look like in a tiered response. So what do all students need? What do some students need? And what do a few students need? So for example, all students will receive course planning presentations, open houses. They might participate in large events like Battle for the Paddle at RE Mountain or orientation days. But that some of our students might need a little bit more, and they might have small group tours of their secondary school that they're transitioning to. They might go over and meet their new teacher or their new resource teacher. They might be provided with a flip book of what their building looks like, their hallways, what their teacher support staff look like, and building those relationships before they even enter their new building. And lastly, we know that some of or a few of our students will need very intentional transitions with wraparound support, ensuring that the appropriate resources and supports are in place for them before they arrive. And so that would be a transition meeting with their parents, associated professionals, resource teachers, etc., in attendance to ensure that we have the appropriate things in place for them to start on a success day one. We know that that begins with collaboration at the heart of everything that we do around transitions from elementary to middle or middle to secondary. And that collaboration involves sites. It involves families who are integral voices for their child. It involves the community that we are in and the services that are provided through our partner groups like Inclusion Langley. Many of our principals are using data that they collect in their transition processes to make informed decisions. For example, running a literacy or numeracy intervention at the secondary, or intentionally placing students with the best fit teacher so that they are set up for success, or using the data to decide an intentional timetable so they're not with their peers. No, I'm kidding. And then lastly, we also know that secondary provides a long runway for students to discover who they are and what that post-secondary opportunity or post-high school life opportunity might look like, including meaningful work, adult services, or endeavors past high school. And so it begins, much of what begins at secondary is around mandatory and optional courses. And so all students will experience mandatory courses like CLE 10 or Career Life Education 10. And the purpose of that course is to have students discover who they are, to navigate what their opportunities might exist for themselves. So I have an interest in art, what might be the opportunities that exist for me post high school. What I might want to become. Do I envision myself as an artist? Do I envision myself as an entrepreneur who's using my art, and making decisions and setting goals around that? And then activating the next transition beyond high school. I refer to it as following the yellow brick road, which is there, as we discover things about ourselves through mandatory courses, and we look for elective courses. For example, the offerings that are at Walnut Grove Secondary, which is on the screen right now, whether it is in art and I see myself as a graphic artist, or whether it is in, I have an entrepreneurial spirit and so I take business courses like marketing and promotions, or I have an interest in computers and what are all the opportunities that exist for me to use my strength in computers and access the realms of video game design, Photoshop, 3D production, etc. And so the landscape of secondary transitions is really about providing opportunities for students to explore their strengths and who they are as an individual while they transition from grade to grade. It is a strength-based approach, one that has students identify and become aware of their own self while layering on their personal interests and directions and maybe making choices that are not the same as their peers, and that's okay. While building on strengths versus paying attention to some of those lagging skills. So not letting the fact that you might be struggling in math define you and who you are as an individual. And most importantly, activating that student voice with agency and providing choice for students. Part of the transition process is what I call the trajectory of change. And so as students navigate the 4 or 5 years that secondary is for them, they are continually in that change cycle of modifying who they are, transitioning to the text grade, transforming their sense of self and who they are as they explore different courses. They get different peer groups. They're shifting who they want to become, and they're constantly in the emotion of adjusting who they are. But most importantly, we want to have them open as many pathways as possible beyond high school, so that whatever pathway they decide to enter into, that opportunity is available to them, whether that be the world of careers through the district careers program and entering as a welder, whether that be going into an apprenticeship through a chef training program at Walnut Grove, whether that be going to college at Kwantlen, or going directly into a university like UBC, or transferring right into work and just getting to it because they haven't discovered yet really what they want to do, or they really just want to earn some money, which is an absolutely great goal. And for some of our priority learners, transitioning to adult services and opportunities that are available through our partner groups like CLBC and Inclusion Langley. This year, I'm proud to talk a little bit about the Teen Transition Fair. This came back after a 5-year COVID hiatus. It's the first time that it's happened in Langley since COVID. And we partnered with Inclusion Langley and offered a transition fair for our priority learners. We had 50 families and students show up that night who all got to have an opportunity to talk with some of the vendors that were there that provide different opportunities, programs, career discoveries, jobs. There was a bank there that talked about the disability tax credit. There were opportunities like the Pathways program where parents could simply go and see all of the opportunities that exist for their child based on their strengths, and have that 4-year runway to decide what they would like for their child beyond high school. And so we're looking forward to bringing it back next year. We have some great ideas, the planning committee, but ultimately the transition through high school is really about discovering oneself and who one wants to become at the end of their 13-year journey as they transition to the world of life, as we call it. And with that, I would like to introduce Assistant Superintendent Marcello Moino. Sorry.
Thank you, Director Polistretti. So as we approach the next step in the journey, graduation, I think the one theme that we certainly see in this presentation is that change really is the only constant. In other words, transitions aren't just kind of here and there in the system, and if we can get students through those transitions, we're going to be okay. Transitions happen on a daily basis. And so the larger goal of the system is how do we then help our students learn to be flexible and independent in their learning. But there's a flip side to that. I think this is a lesson that the system's certainly learned and Langley's learned over the last several years, especially as we've moved to ensoling our schools. It's not only up to the student to be flexible, it's up to the system to be flexible and to meet the students where they're at. And I think that's one of the reasons why Langley has had such successful graduation transition rates. And that we're learning as a system not to force students to be who we want them to be, but for us to meet them where they are so that they can be who they need to be and want to be. And so that idea of flexible and independent learning supported by the Ministry of Education and Childcare as they publish this description of the educated citizen. I will not ask you to read the whole thing, but I will focus on the first word at the start of each bullet point. Thoughtful, creative, capable, skilled, productive, cooperative, aware. A notice? I don't see a list of memorized facts anywhere on there in terms of what creates or what makes for an educated citizen. Rather, it's that mix of skills, attributes, and knowledge that help create, as according to the ministry, students then who will graduate as educated citizens of the 21st century, with the necessary qualities to seize a wide array of global opportunities. Again, looking at evidence that the ministry supports this idea of growing independence in terms of our learners, we look at grade 10 and we see the word elective twice in non-bolded font. Meanwhile, we see 6 out of 8, and again, most students in grade 10 do take at least 8 courses, 6 out of the 8 courses being required. But interestingly, by the time we get to grade 12, we see 2 required courses, and we see a whole bunch of elective opportunities. And as Director Polistretti described in her example for Walnut Grove, that same example is true in all of our schools, that the electives that exist in each of the schools is actually different, specific to geography, specific to student preference. And again, an example of the system meeting the students where they're at. So if the students in one school really prefer more electronics courses, then we offer more electronics courses versus in another school where perhaps Law 12 is the course that the students really want to be taking. So again, the system meeting the needs of the learner. In terms of Langley specifically, we certainly have our academic pathways, but we also have our career pathways. And again, to be able to choose a career pathway, students really need to have a sense by the time they get to grade 11 and 12 of what their own personal interests are. And even if they don't know for sure, the great thing is that they're able to take some of these different options and try. And if they want to, after grade 12, they can pursue at KPU, at different post-secondary institutions, they can pursue some of these options. And if not, they've certainly learned something about themselves in a very successful learning experience. And beyond those specific programs and pathways and careers, there are actually less formal and more personalized options as well. We used to know this as work experience, but I think, again, the system has understood that work experience isn't the only valuable experience. Volunteer experience is just as valuable. And I think, again, the key is that this is learning that happens outside of the 4 walls of the classroom. And the system, and Langley, to support that, has a career advisor in each of our secondary schools to support students taking that learned experience, that passion, that interest that's outside of school, helping them bring that in to school. And so while high school graduation certainly is the goal, we know that there are far more steps that then move us beyond graduation. Again, as described by Director Polistretti, students can go into the workforce, they can volunteer, they can travel, they can create their own entrepreneurial opportunities, they can continue at post-secondary institutions in whatever their passion. But again, I think the key lesson here is that the end of the pre-K to grade 12 journey is not the end of the student story. It's actually the beginning of a new journey and new possibilities that the pre-K to 12 journey has helped prepare them for. And so we go back to the very beginning and the idea that every child matters. Think about those 3, 4, and 5-year-olds who are entering into the system in pre-K or K. Every single student deserves to find themselves, their identities, how they fit into the world, and I think even more importantly, they deserve to see themselves in the world in a successful transition to whatever is next for them. So when every child matters, and as a district, we're moving towards that 100% graduation where every student finds that meaningful life option beyond school. We know we're headed in the right direction when we have a record number of Golden Eagles at the Aboriginal Achievement Awards just a few weeks ago. That night, loud and clear, celebrated was the journey that each student had taken, what each student had learned, and I think perhaps more importantly and most importantly is who they discovered themselves to be. Each of them showing that they were comfortable in their own shoes, shoes that they had helped to create. And so I'd like to end the presentation today with a video, a short clip. It's one that highlights an opportunity that exists in the Langley School District, a dual credit opportunity. It's the Early Childhood Educator Program that was developed in Langley along with University of Fraser Valley and the Abbotsford School District. Here are highlighted are 2 graduates from recent graduates from Walnut Grove Secondary. And again, I'd like you just to listen to their story.
I wanted to be a teacher for like a really long time, and then my mom was like, oh, there's this program, you should do it. And I'm like, okay, but I didn't really know what it was about. And then I went to like the info thing and I was like super interested in it.
I really like getting to like actually come in and get to work with the kids, and I really enjoyed the activities that like my teacher did with me throughout the course, and I really enjoyed getting to meet all the new people that we became good friends with.
Being outside is like very different than being in a class, because inside you're kind of just like restricted to what you have in here, and then outside you're kind of like have more to do and more to explore, and it'll like benefit kids more. I don't have to pay for the tuition for this year. It's already paid for me, and it's great.
I was a little nervous at first applying for universities, but now I know for sure that this is something I want to do later on in my life and possibly go further with it.
And so both students did end up, after graduating from Walnut Grove, moving on into an early childhood education program and continued and completed their studies. And so that video for me, it brings, I think, full circle the goal of what happens in Langley. Here we have Langley students, so again, who started 3, 4, 5 years old, looking for positive experiences, looking to find a sense of who they are. And because they experienced positive transitions all the way through the system, they now want to be a part of the same positive transitions for future Langley students. Thank you.
Thank you very much, all of you, for being here. Trustees, do you have any questions or comments? No? No? Okay. Well, good work. I'm further impressed. Thank you so much for all of your hard work and getting that presentation together for us as well. And yeah, so Thank you. We'll just move on then. Our trustees must be getting tired. You probably are too. Okay, we have a motion, a recommended motion, please. Could I have a mover that the Board of Education receives a report on transitions through the Langley School District for information as provided? Moved by Vice Chair Wilson, seconded by Trustee Dickinson. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. 7.3, Annual Board Development Plan. Back over to you, Superintendent Gill.
Thank you. Sensing the room, I will quickly go over this part of the agenda. Most of the information is in your board report. Just wanted to let the public know the work that has been going on with the board over the past few months and our plans moving forward as it pertains to board development. So first of all, on policy 2, role of the board, clearly defines what it is that the board is responsible for. But under 2.8, which is board development, there is a responsibility of the board to develop a board development plan that supports and aligns their activities with the district priorities. And so the board has been engaged with our BC School Trustees Association, and there has been a pilot program that's been put on through the organization, and we have been a part of that pilot, and we've had 2 learning sessions already, and we've focused our first 2 learning sessions on governance. We look forward to a number of other opportunities to learn together over the next year and a half, and I will be updating public on some of the learning that we go through. Just so you know, as public, that on March the 11th, we met with Suzanne Hoffman, who's former CEO of BCSTA and former superintendent of Langley School District, and Trevor Davies, who is the current CEO of BCSTA. And they walked us through the initial kind of introduction to governance. And then we had a second meeting on May the 5th with Suzanne Hoffman, and again, continuing on that conversation around governance as well. Certainly there was some key learning for us around defining the roles of the board chair, trustees, and the superintendent, just to make sure that there is work around continuous monitoring and assessment of our collective performance, and then fostering collaboration, teamwork, and respectful relationships between us and community. We continue to do that work, and we continue to work through the next steps around our learning. And with that, we'll be continuing that in August during a whole day session with BCSTA leadership, most likely Suzanne Hoffman, but we will be confirming that over the coming weeks. Just wanted to, again, just to let the public know the work that we've been doing around board development.
Thank you. Trustees, do you have any questions or comments? No? Oh, Vice Chair Wilson.
Yeah, I think that the rolling out the pilot project is going to be helpful for new trustees starting in the future. And so we've kind of agreed to, I don't want to say be guinea pigs because it's a pilot. Yeah, and so I guess the main priority for myself on the board was figuring out governance versus operations, which is the age-old question of I constantly feel like it's governance and some people feel like it's operations. So I'm hopeful that we will get there someday, maybe in August. So I think it will be valuable to new boards though, and I'm appreciative for the work that we've been doing together. Thank you.
Just to, again, reiterate that it is a pilot program and that trustees have been excellent about providing feedback to the BCSTA presenters, and that feedback has been taken, and there are a number of changes because of that feedback. So again, just wanted to reiterate that part as well.
Trustee Fox, do you want to put your mic on?
I could synthesize Vice Chair Wilson. I think she said in a whole bunch of words that she likes being a guinea pig.
That's exactly.
Okay, I just was.
Any other trustees have any comments? It was, yeah, I found the sessions to be really helpful, and especially helping to develop a new program. I understand it's no cost to the district as well through BCSTA. So, and I definitely found it myself even beneficial just having those conversations with my fellow trustees. And I'm looking forward to continuing that work and then building it for as well for the next board. So yeah, and I understand that we're going to be, we'll continue that to the, maybe before the next school year. So, and yeah, so helping and actually feedback. I have been meaning to email trustees though, because I did want to get some formal feedback. So that just triggered me to remind me to email you to get feedback to send to Suzanne. So seeing no other speakers, then could I please have a mover for the motion that the Board of Education receives the update on the annual board development plan for information as presented, moved by trustee Dickinson, seconded by trustee Fox. Any discussion? Motion, seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. All right, now we're moving on to new business, and I'm going to pass the mic over to trustee Dickinson because she has a motion to bring forward.
Okay. So trustees, as you may remember, back on May 9th, I sent you all a email letting you know that I was going to be bringing this motion tonight. It is in response to the government's or the provincial government's budget this year. So here's what I wrote. The province's struggle to balance budget has resulted in Langley School District being unable to build new schools in a timely manner, leaving many communities such as Langley struggling with severe overcrowding and excessive reliance on portable classrooms. The current lack of new capital funding for schools is unsustainable and exacerbates inequalities and inequities in public education. Waiting is no longer an option. Students cannot afford further delays in school construction. The province must take immediate action to address the critical infrastructure deficit in BC's fastest growing communities. We value our relationship with the province and are hoping that we can look for ways to collaborate in order to get new capital funding released immediately. Whereas the ministry response to the annual 5-year capital plan submission for 2025-2026 does not provide new capital funding for the construction of new schools in Langley. Whereas Langley is experiencing significant enrollment growth, leading to overcapacity in schools and an over-reliance on portables. And whereas the Ministry of Education and Child Care's 2025-2026 capital plan submission guidelines emphasized the importance of long-term planning to accommodate student growth, yet current funding levels do not align with the urgent needs for new schools to deal with the immediate capacity challenges. Therefore, my motion is, therefore it be resolved that the Langley School Board write a formal letter to Premier David Eby, the Minister of Education and Childcare, and the Minister of Infrastructure, and the Minister of Finance, urging the provincial government to reconsider the ministry response to the annual 5-year capital plan submission for 2025-2026 and immediately allocate new capital funding for the construction of the schools as outlined in Langley's 2025-2026 capital plan submission.
All right, thank you. So we have a mover and a seconded by trustee Fox. Any discussion on the motion? Trustee Fox?
Yes, I think I think it's pretty evident where we sit in terms of the need. We do have a number of projects on the go here right now. I think if we look at what we've got with the Josette Dandurand, with what we've got 22 new classrooms coming on in the form of modulars in September, which we're excited about. We just had a meeting with the city of Langley and they're excited about it. We saw the plans, the drawings, and they look great. But definitely the need is there. We need a Southwest Latimer school, which would respond to that neck of land between 200th and 196th north of 72nd, helping to alleviate pressures at Langley Meadows. So I think, writing a letter Anytime we get an opportunity to either advocate through the BCSTA, which I referred to earlier, or in person with the minister, either minister, now that we have to deal with two, I think we have to take advantage of it. And this may be an opportunity sooner rather than later. So I think we need to pass this motion, get the letter written, and get it in the mail as soon as possible, so we can take a jump on any opportunity. Summer's coming, it'll slow things down, so we got to do it well before that.
Thank you, Trustee Fox. Any other trustees have anything that they'd like to add? No? All right, I will, we have a mover and a seconder and a motion on the table. So could I please have a show of hands for all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you, Trustee Dickinson. All right, moving along to trustee work report. So this was changed. Trustees may remember at our last regular board meeting, our policy was updated to now be trustee work reports instead of trustee comments. So I will start down on my far right then and just we'll move along. If anybody has anything they'd like to say, you're welcome to pass as well. Okay, Vice Chair Wilson, no? Okay, Trustee Neufeld, anything you'd like to know? Trustee Fox?
Just quickly,
Put your mic on, please, Trustee Fox. Otherwise, I can't hear it's on the video.
Aboriginal Achievement Awards were just awesome. I'm certainly glad that Assistant Superintendent Lynchbury got that picture of that girl. She was driving me nuts. She was written right in front of me. I couldn't see. I was going like this. I got the real bob, but you got a good picture of her. I hope you sent it to her mom and dad. Or the student that graduated, because I got a sore neck. I just wanted to recognize Athletic Awards Banquet. Couple of names that have been around a long time were recognized. Greg Leno, 50 years of coaching in Langley School District. I mean, that's a legend. I mean, he started in 1974 in Poppy. He's still coaching today. Harry Frank won the Builders Award. I was pleased with that. Harry was a teacher of mine on staff for a number of years and still teaching. And Gary Lutz, still teaching and still coaching track at Walnut Grove. Again, I think he started in 1991 when Walnut Grove was opened. So these teachers are real lifetime, and so it was great to see their colleagues getting together and honoring them and the legacy they leave behind. So good.
Thank you. Trustee Rai, do you have anything you wanted to add? No? Okay, and I guess it's just myself left. And so we had actually a really busy month. We had a couple of partner liaison meetings with QP 1851, LPVPA. I attended the Between the Lines production at Walnut Grove Secondary. There's so many that I would have loved to have attended, but unfortunately we can't attend all of them. And also attended the Aboriginal Achievement Awards, and I always look forward to that every year. It's such a great evening. And the district athletics celebration as well. That was a pretty inspiring evening in recognizing our athletic leaders in the district. And then also we had we had a dinner with the city with city council and staff, and that was a really great evening as well. And just to talk about working together and what we can do moving forward. And it was a really, really nice evening, as it always is with them. So I will move on to question period now. So forgive me, I just have to read a little blurb here. Question period is provided at board meetings. The purpose is to ensure that those present in the audience have an opportunity to obtain clarification concerning business conducted during that meeting. Priority will be given responding to one question per person before considering further questions from any individual. The following will help the public develop questions for question period at a board meeting that is keeping with the goal of a respectful and focused meeting. Questions need to be directed to the chair and not staff, need to be related directly to the topic on the agenda, need to be succinct, focused, and not be a statement, may not be asked that are related to personnel or directed at an individual trustee, may not be asked that are related to contract negotiations, and the questioner shall provide their name so that it can be reflected in the minutes. All of the above that I just mentioned are directions provided for in board policy number 7, board operations. The chair may answer, may defer to staff, or indicate a question may be not in keeping with the above guidelines. The board appreciates the public's interest and wants to ensure a professional meeting is conducted with question period focused on providing guests with the clarification they seek. Trustees also welcome questions from members of the public apart from question period, and our contact information is available on the school district website. And welcome.
Thank you very much, Rasha Septi, parent advocate and Township of Langley resident. It's not a question. I just want to say I'm deeply encouraged and frankly excited to learn that.
Aisha?
Yes.
Sorry, this is question period, and we can't allow you to bring up a statement. It's
Can I
question
make
period.
a question then?
To be, yep, you can ask
Sounds good.
questions,
Thank you.
definitely.
I want to say I'm really encouraged and frankly excited to learn that significant progress has been made in the dialogue between our school district and the Township of Langley, resulting in a potential agreement, which you mentioned early in the day. This milestone reflects the power of collaboration and shared commitment to our future in the community. I believe it represents hope and opportunity for our children who deserve nothing less than the very best. Are you able to give me a little bit more details on the school, the statement that was presented regarding the conversation with the township? Thank you.
Thanks. Or that was released from in camera, so that's all I can offer you for as far as information at this time.
Tisha Kraft from Langley DPAC VP2. I would like to speak to the presentation on inclusive accessibility. I too, like the board, actually couldn't hold back my tears. I sat there and cried a little bit. So I echo the comments that the board made. Under the BC Accessibility Audit that is coming up, I'm aware that there's one school PAC, Uplands Elementary, that has had to raise considerable funds to ensure that a student at that school had was accessible to that school. Thinking about Alice Brown, who is looking at the same issue, trying to raise fund for a new student coming over. While I appreciate the energy and commitment of the PACs in the community and the donors funding these, I believe it's a core school district responsibility with students with disabilities. And I ask that the audit that's coming up include the funding shortages that is clearly evident if PACs are raising money.
Thank you so your question is wondering if we could include the
shortages.
Should I pass this over to maybe to you, Superintendent?
Do you have a
Gill,
part
or?
B as well, if I'm allowed to ask that after?
Yeah, I'm just getting a message from the assistant superintendent, so I'll just maybe ask her to jump in on the 2 items that were brought up earlier. I'm trying to read my watch, sorry.
Thank you, Superintendent Gill. Yeah, thank you for the question. I am aware that this year we had some accessibility funds, and some did go to Uplands and some did go to Alice Brown. So I think we're on our way to working with the schools, and we're working with our occupational therapists and the staff within the schools to identify some of our greatest needs, as well as there's targeted schools who are receiving funds and some items, as well as across the whole district, ensuring that every single school has an accessible swing this year. So that's the work that Assistant Superintendent Molino and I have been doing with Director Linda Polistretti with the Maintenance and Facilities Department this year. And
thank you. Did you have a follow-up?
I do have one more.
Yeah, go ahead. There's nobody else waiting.
So I just concerned that I do want to see that the audit will reflect how much money that the PACs have to contribute, and that the community has to help with that audit, because I do think that it's a school district's responsibility to apply to ensure that there's accessibility. My second question was how many of the gala event
your event, is that what you mean, the lift?
How many of there is in the district, and how does that look if there's a conflict between 2 schools that need to use it at the same time?
we haven't had a conflict yet. I think what we'll do is we're looking at situations as they come, and if that's the situation that arises, we'll have to work through it at that level. But I think at the end of the day, we've invested in one, and see what we can do around funding as we move forward. And the other questions that you brought forward, we'll take into consideration as well. We appreciate that.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Okay. All right, we are at the end of our meeting. So could I please have a motion that the meeting be adjourned at 8:59 p.m. Moved by Vice Chair Wilson, seconded by Trustee Fox. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Good night, everyone. Thanks for being here.